All right, let's get this thing started, man. We had a record-breaking night in round one. We had 6 quarterbacks come off the board in the first 12 picks. And over here at the Draft Network, right, we believe in situations matter for rookie quarterbacks, right? We look at case studies as close as C.J. Stroud, right, going to that situation. So we believe that situations matter for young quarterbacks. So let's start at the very top and talk about these landing spots, right, for these quarterbacks. We're going to start with the number 1 overall pick, one of the most polarizing prospects we've seen in a very long time. Caleb Williams goes to the Chicago Bears, but we can't talk about that situation without talking about what they did at number 9 with Rome Odunze. Let's get this conversation. Ryan Fowler, let's get it started. How do you feel about that situation?
I absolutely love it. Look, Chicago is trying to work back towards relevancy, right, in the NFC North. And not only do you get your face of the franchise and your guy for a major year with Ryan Poles, GM, and head coach Matt Eberflus, then you come back at 9 and get one of the premier, not just wide receivers in this class, players overall, pound for pound, if you will, in this class in Rome Odunze to pair with a guy like DJ Moore and also bring in a veteran guy like Keenan Allen, where he's not 25 years old anymore, but he's going to be someone that can holster targets right away in that offense. So they're building from the ground up there. I love what Caleb Williams is able to do inside the structure. We talk about the creativity all the time, but what can you do when things are fine in the pocket? Can you deliver inside a structure? I love what Chicago did on day one, Keith.
Can I say this, that it's rare for a quarterback to go from college to the NFL and be in a better situation. And I believe that Caleb Williams is in a better situation in Chicago. He has 3 potential all-pro wide receivers. That was not there at USC, right, at that given time. So when I look at it, I like the landing spot. And we've seen the comparisons of Patrick Mahomes and some of the better quarterbacks. I think this guy has a rare opportunity to step in early and be an impactful player because of those surrounding pieces and those offensive weapons.
I mean, when you look at what Caleb Williams is walking into, offensive line, DeAndre Swift in the run game, Cole Kmet now can work the middle of the field without any pressure. Because when you try out of that offensive huddle, you have an X, a Z, a slot. You have everything for Caleb to just kind of play point guard for the first time in his career, where he doesn't have to be the bucket getter all the time. And I think this is a great situation where you just look at it from an aspect of, Caleb, we're going to give you everything you need to succeed. Now just go ahead and run the offense, right? Just go ahead and run the offense. Keenan Allen's going to be able to be that chain mover for him. Rome can do a little bit of everything. And DJ Moore is just a beast after the catch. This may be the best situation for all the rookie quarterbacks.
We're going to talk about that, DP, because we have some good situations out there. We have some good ones. But Ryan Fowler, I'm coming back to you. Because we have the Washington Commanders sitting at number 2, man. They went with your guy, Jayden Daniels. Let's talk about this situation because this is Jayden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. So I think this one has the opportunity to go all the way good, and it can go all the way bad, right? So I'm going to pass it to you first, Ryan Fowler. What are your initial thoughts, especially with your experience with the Washington Commanders, having worked for them? What are your thoughts with that process?
I think first things first, Adam Peters got their guy, right? If Jayden Daniels is your guy, go and get your guy. And I think when you look at Jayden Daniels' game, the rapid improvement from Arizona State to LSU, he's electric. And he immediately becomes the most talented quarterback in Washington since they drafted Robert Griffin III 12 years ago, and it's really not even close. And what he's going to do for this offense, where we've talked about for a long time, will Terry McLaurin ever get a quarterback to feed him the ball? He's got a guy in Jayden Daniels. Jahan Dotson is there. They made additions in drafting Brian Robinson a few years ago. Austin Eckler they brought in. They're going to make additions here in the draft later on as far as adding bodies along the front 5. But when you look at what Jayden Daniels does inside of the pocket, and then also when things break down, or when also design powers, QB powers in the perimeter, he's electric. And I think he's going to expand a playbook in Cliff Kingsbury's offense. He's had experience with a guy like Kyler Murray in Arizona. I can't wait. Look, Commanders fans out there, Burgundy Gold faithful, they've been looking for a guy. I think they got their guy, and now it's just about putting things around him, those correlating surroundings, and working back to relevancy in the NFC East.
I think with a dual-threat quarterback, right, it's about what you do with him because a big element is his legs. So the question is, I think it falls solely on Cliff Kingsbury. I looked at the Washington Commanders setup, right? I feel like that Dan Quinn is the head coach. He's the defensive coordinator. He hired Cliff Kingsbury to be like, you know what? That's your side of the football. So if you talk about Jayden Daniels' success, I think it's predicated off of what Cliff does. And I want to keep his legs involved in the game, right? I hate when people take dual threat quarterbacks and the same thing that got them to be successful in college, they take it away from them in the NFL. So I don't want that or want that to be a part of the process.
No, you can't take the legs away, right? You kind of have to implement that QB read option to where he's attacking the outside edge of the tackle's hip, right? Keep that backside in contained to pull someone from the box to help Brian Robinson Jr. But I think And the underrated part, Zach Ertz, bringing that veteran that just knows how to,
Yeah.
Jason Witten, right? He's at that stage of his career where he just can get open, quick plays in the middle of the field, be a good option for him. But then when you get, I want him to get Jahan Dotson back reinvigorated in his offense.
Yeah, got to get him going.
We've
My guy.
seen- no disrespect to Sam Howell, but it feels like there was not a great connection there between those two.
Yeah.
I think Jaden Daniels, especially that slot fade, those deep passes down the field, he can get both him, De'Ami Brown, who's been a deep ball specialist throughout his college career, coming into the league, and of course Terry McLaurin. I think this is a really good, good landing spot along with Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, I was going to say, Keith, you mentioned earlier as far as allowing guys to just be athletes, right? Do what they do best. And you see sometimes guys come in from college to where they ask them to be robots sometimes and not allow them to be themselves.
They
And hopefully-
overthink the process.
Absolutely. And with Chicago with Caleb, Washington with Jaden Daniels. And now I want to move on to the third overall pick with Drake May going to the New England Patriots. And Keith, I'm going to come to you first. Look, there's a lot of talk as far as does New England go into 2024? Is Jacoby Brissett going to be the guy, and they just want to add picks and try to build around him? Because they do have some okay pieces, right? They brought Mike Onwenu back along the front five, and they have Pop Douglas and Kendrick Bourne on the outside. It's not a terrible situation, but now they add Drake May, who is their face of the franchise right now. So your thoughts on Drake May going to New England at number 3?
My initial thoughts is sit him. I sit him because I don't think that this team, and we started this video off right talking about being ready for the moment as far as the franchise. This team is not ready. I think they're going through an offense identity, right? They're trying to figure out who they are as a team. I think there's still offensive pieces you have to get, right? You have to figure out what the offensive coordinator himself is going to do. So there's so much. I would hate to put a rookie quarterback in that situation while we're still trying to identify who we want to be as people. So you have Jacoby Brissett, a veteran. Let him take them lumps, right? He's used to it. He's been a journeyman guy. We know that he's tough, right? He's going to bring Drake May along from the mental perspective, right? He's going to show him how to be a professional. I'm just not a believer in putting a young quarterback out there before the team is ready, because what happens is this: they learn how to play football the wrong way. And we've seen so many case studies of talented guys. It's hard to reverse that, and they start to the Sam Darnold thing, right? They start to see ghosts, and usually it's hard to get rid of those ghosts.
I think that Jacoby Brissett is such a great mentor to him. You go back to when he was drafted to the Patriots, he followed Tom Brady around. He talked about how Tom Brady helped him learn how to be a pro.
I didn't think about
learned.
that.
I think that's a great situation for Drake. Like you said, sit him. Let Jacoby go out there and start in the season, play ball. He can get the ball to these weapons. He's still got a big arm. He knows how to run an NFL offense. And while Jacoby's doing that, Alex Van Pelt, AVP, who's the OC, can now work with Drake May off the field on his footwork and his mechanics. The two things he needed to improve on, and I think that'll allow him to accelerate him going into whether it's week 10, 12, or the following week 1. By the time he steps on the field, I think we'll see a more refined version of Drake May if you give him the time to sit behind Jacoby with AVP and work on those different
I was going to say, look at the AFC East right now. And I know it's a very talented division, but very quickly, this division could flip. Because what is the future with the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers? How many more years does he have? Buffalo is really in a transitional period right now to where they're trying to.
They don't know.
I don't think they do know. Absolutely, Keith. So they're trying to figure it out. And then New England, obviously, with Drake May. And then Miami is Tua the guy for the future. They got talent everywhere, and they're going to continue to add.
paid him yet.
Absolutely. So what's the future there? So quickly, New England, I don't think they're going to work back to that dynasty that we saw for decade on decade, but Drake May is a foundational ad, and I think he's the right ad for the future.
And this is the year to build the foundation.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got him. Now finish this thing out strong. Build that floor for him so when he does take the stage, it's solidified.
Yep, I'm talking about just like you said, building the foundation. Well, let's go. Let's transition. Hot Atlanta, right? They shook up the draft at the number 8 overall pick, man. They went with Michael Penix, the quarterback from Washington. I think this was the first wow moment of the entire draft, right? So initial reactions. How did we feel about Michael Penix going to Atlanta Falcons? They gave Kirk Cousins over $100 million, right? Which you say he's going to be the guy for the next couple of years. DP, how did you feel about that situation? General Manager Terry Fontenot making that selection after, the Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, right? How do you feel about Michael Penix now and whether he'll play or not?
I feel like this is a good situation for Penix. Like the weapons they have, the tools they have around him, he can walk in day one and be the starter. It reminds me of when Russell Wilson was drafted. Now, granted, that was 3rd round. This is pick 8 overall. The Seahawks had just signed Matt Flynn to a big deal.
Right.
And Russell walked into training camp and took the job. Right? We've seen a team do that before. So I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen to Kirk, but Kirk's coming off an Achilles. He's well over 30. We don't know how he's going to actually physically respond. So initially I was like, wow, like this is kind of early for a QB where you could have gotten an edge rusher. Terry has gone 3 straight years at pick number 8 and said, I don't care about defense. Like, it just seems like that's been the thing. But when you look at it, what happens if it goes wrong? What happens if Kirk cannot play like a couple weeks into the season if he's not the same guy? Yeah, you guarantee them that money for 2 years, but guys, they'll save $65 million in 2026 for the post-June 1 cut. You get rid of him after that, and Penix is your franchise quarterback. This is a situation where now it's not a Taylor Heineke situation. It's not a Gardner Minshew situation. You have a legitimate quarterback as QB2 that whatever happens with Kirk, if it's not right, you don't panic. You go ahead and move him forward.
I think that's the biggest thing is Michael Penix is one play away. And we see that across the league with a lot of guys. It's not just at the quarterback position. It could be at wide receiver. It could be at tackle. That 6th offensive lineman on a team goes overlooked every single year. But with Michael Penix and the skill set that he has, the biggest thing for me, we talk about Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan, Tyler Algier looks overlooked. They got Jake Matthews at tackle, one of the best and underrated tackles in the league, in my opinion. But it's Zach Robinson, the orchestrator of all these things, coming over from Los Angeles to where he's going to get the ball out quickly, whether it's Kirk under center or whether it's Michael Penix. And both those guys, we can all agree, I think, here on Kirk Cousins and Michael, in that they have the ability to sit inside the pocket, a little bit of throwback type of quarterbacks, and deliver to the weapons that they have on the perimeter. So look, it's the most shocking selection in the first round. We may not have a more shocking pick in this entire draft, but hopefully for Atlanta's perspective, moving down the line, they have an overall plan, and if they don't, then you got a lot of questions to ask for GM Terry Fontenot.
Yeah, I like the pick. Matter of fact, I love it. I love it for the Atlanta Falcons. I love it for Michael Penix Jr. having the opportunity with no pressure, right? Because I think if it goes right, Kirk Cousins immediately comes in. He plays, they win games, the fan base is okay. Michael Penix Jr. gets to develop, right? And I always go back, and we've had this conversation. Remember, we were at the Senior Bowl, right? We were watching Michael Penix because as scouts, we were like, hey, the movement part, we're trying to figure that part out, right? But he looked so comfortable with bootleg stuff, right? Getting outside of the pocket. He looked like a fluid athlete, and this was before he ran the 4.5 at the pro day, right? So we kept saying, like, man, one of those Sean McVays, right? One of those style offenses, I can see Michael Penix Jr. going there, and guess what? The offensive coordinator they have was from the Los Angeles Rams, so I think they were thinking like us at the Draft Network, right? They were thinking like us, but let's keep this thing going, man. On to pick 10. J.J. McCarthy, Minnesota Vikings, right? We knew that this was going to happen. It was a matter of how high, right? We kept talking. They was going to package 11 and 23 and get all the way up to pick number 4 or pick number 5, but they were able to nab their guy at pick 10. Now, the Minnesota Vikings, this may be the best situation. You're talking about Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. They got Aaron Jones, right? Head coach Kevin O'Connell, with T.J. Hockenson to be returning back from an injury. So where are we with this situation, and how early do you think J.J. McCarthy can get on the field? I'm going to go to DP first and let him answer that.
I think this is a situation where you let him come into camp, you don't give him the job, you tell him beat Sam Darnold, right? J.J. McCarthy comes off as a very good competitor, a spirited competitor. When you tell him you got to earn it, he's going to go earn it. And I think with him walking into this offense that's going to stretch zone with Aaron Jones, right? Give him the bootleg action. Get him on the perimeter, on the move. This young man has the tools, physical, strong arm. He's really mobile. I don't think he ran the 40, but he's probably 4.5, 4.6 type of athlete. And then when you think about it, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, where this is vastly improved than what he threw to at Michigan. I think this is an opportunity for Kevin O'Connell to show why he's one of the best coaches, one of my favorite coaches in the NFL. For a guy like JJ who wasn't given a ton of opportunity to throw the ball in 2 drop back sets, I think why Kevin O'Connell is a great opportunity for him, a great coach, is because he's going to be a trusting coach. He's going to be a player coach that's going to encourage him and uplift him and understand that when you do take the field, I know I'm going to deal with the bumps and bruises, but I'm going to be right there, like almost like a father figure, to pick you up, tell you keep your head up, and let's keep pushing towards our goal.
That was something he mentioned too when we interviewed him, right? He talked about Kevin O'Connell. He talked about the quarterback series on Netflix, and then he talked about getting a talk with him in person. He was just like, I just feel like that guy is in my corner, right? And that's so important because as a rookie, we know he's going to make mistakes, right? But what is your head coach going to do? Is he going to take the Sean Payton route with Russell Wilson and berate you in front of everybody and now your confidence is low? Or is he going to pull you to the side like, hey, big dog, we good. We're going to figure this thing out and go from there. So that's where I view it. Ryan Fowler, I want you to be able to get your take.
Yeah, I think we get so excited about guys that have the big arms, that are super athletic, but sometimes it's just about playing that game manager role or being the Alex Smith or the Case Keenums of the world, and that's okay. Now, for me, I personally I wouldn't have taken J.J. McCarthy inside the top 8, 9 picks, or where we were talking about potentially teams trading up to 3 or a 4 or 5 and taking him there, because I don't think he can mask some of the inefficiencies that you want in a Caleb Williams, Drake May, to where potentially the front 5 can't protect and I want you to escape or throw receivers open consistently if you don't have those guys on the outside. JJ does. And you mentioned Kevin O'Connell, and he's also playing in a dome, which is also going to be nice in familiar surroundings up there in the north. So when I look at this situation, again, we get so excited about athletes. Just the ability to dissect a playbook, read the playbook, relay a play, and lead the other 10 guys on offense and dissect the shallow to intermediate areas. He's a little bit of a projection from the athleticism standpoint, making throws specifically vertically down the field. Yeah. But what he's going to have in Minnesota early on in his career, including the offensive line and a friendly face to hand it off to 15 to 20 times a game, that's an immediate floor for J.J. McCarthy. And I think he also, the projection stuff we talk about, also provides a higher ceiling as well.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, let's finish this thing up, and we'll wrap it up with Bo Nix. We just talked about Sean Payton. Yep. Sean Payton got his guy. He wanted Bo Nix. You have Bo Nix at pick number 12. My instant reaction is this. This may be the situation that I'm most unsure of. And the reason is this. When Sean Payton initially took this job, right, he had all the offensive pieces, the Jerry Jeudy's, right, KJ Hamler was there, and everything appeared to be on the up and up. But now when I look at it, they don't have those pieces. And then Bo Nix, we've seen a bad Bo Nix before at Auburn, right, just 2 years ago. And then now is he going to the same situation? Is this situation more similar to Auburn as far as lack of weapons on the outside versus Oregon, right, where it was spread and everything was vertical and, take the deep shots and take the short game, right? So that's what concerns me. And I wouldn't necessarily, he would be a guy that I would want to develop, right? Sit him down, develop him, and go from there.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's a very touch and go situation in Denver because your number 1 wide receiver is Cortland Sutton. Who's your number 2? Tim Patrick, who's coming up back-to-back seasons of season-ending injury.
ACL and Achilles.
Torn Achilles, right? Then you have second-year player, Marvin Mims. Greg Dulcich is okay tight end, but they don't have a coverage puller. You got to hope that the run game with Javonte Williams takes effect, and you can kind of protect Bo Nix, give him a run game on early downs, get him into third and manageable, and kind of play that game manager role with them, even though he does have really good tools, arm talent, mobility. Also, this offensive line is shaky. So it's like you talk about Auburn. What do we see him struggle with Auburn? Pressure. When pressure got back there, bad decisions, taking sacks, throwing the ball into double coverage. But guess what, man? You can't do that in the NFL, right? And I just wonder if Sean Payton's the type of coach for the mentality of Bo Nix.
Does he have patience?
Yeah.
That's going to be the biggest thing. Does he have patience?
How does Bo Nix respond if Sean Payton chews him out on the sideline for a multi-interception game, right? You're going up against Patrick Mahomes. You don't think that young man's going to have the thought in my mind, I gotta keep up with Patrick Mahomes, right? With Xavier Worthy and the rest of the receivers, Hollywood Brown and everything. This is an issue, a situation where I'm not really comfortable with it.
I'm gonna push back. I like Bo Nix a lot, and I think the maturity and the quick evolvement that we saw from going to Auburn to Oregon is something for me that's underappreciated. And I talked to you guys about my thoughts on him at the Senior Bowl. Now maybe they were different from yours, Damien, or yours, Keith, but working in a neutral environment and with neutral receivers that he never worked with before, specifically in the red zone sessions, to where everything is condensed and that back line of the end zone is another defender. Day 1 was not good for Bo Nix, but what I saw on day 2 and 3 as far as in practice and him working again in a neutral environment to where that rapport with those players and the light meetings that they did down there in Mobile,
right.
I like what I saw from Bo. And I think there is a narrative that's a little bit false when we look at Bo Nix as far as he doesn't want to target down the field with consistency. Because look, teams are going to balance with Denver now. I want you to be the game manager, but how much are you also going to target down the field? And the thing with Bo Nix as well is he had more targets 10-plus yards down the field this year than Jaden Daniels. And he was known for targeting Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Right. Bo Nix also had more touchdowns, 10-plus yards down the field on targets, more than Michael Penix Jr., who was in an offense that also prioritized vertical shots to Roma Dunze, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan. So I like Bo Nix's game. I think he's a little bit of a throwback at the position. Athleticism is a little bit underrated. Now, I get it. The weapons, they are not there. It's going to be really interesting with the Sean Payton stuff.
How do you feel about the situation?
The situation, it's not the best. It's not the best, but I think the skill set of what Bo Nix is, the mature ability to come inside an offense and pick apart the shallow intermediate areas, understand what I'm doing, where that mic is, what those safeties are doing, man zone on the outside. I think Bo Nix is going to be able to do that early in his career.
And I'm going to push back a little bit coming to Bo. The issue I have from he did bounce back at the Senior Bowl. Those one-on-one reps, where you got receiver, DB, deep ball, receivers. Got it. For example, Quinyon Mitchell had one of the highlight interceptions against Brendan Rice on the post. Brendan Rice beat him.
Right.
Why did he intercept that ball? It was completely underthrown by Bo Nix. He was throwing passes over the wrong shoulder, out of bounds, too far ahead. In the NFL, it's a game of inches. The margin of error is slim. And if your guys are down the field and they win, the one way to lose that receiver's trust is to be inaccurate when you can get them 6.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest problems with them. And I don't know, again, do they have the weapons to stress the teams vertically? Because if you can't do that, Keith, as you know as a former coach and defensive mind, what are the teams going to do? Put the umbrella on. They're going to crowd down on the line of scrimmage. They're going to play at that 10-yard box. And they're going to take things away from the short and intermediate. And that's where that Bo Nix issue comes into play.
And I will say this, maybe if you had more than a day with Brendan Rice, maybe that ball's complete.
I don't think that's a problem.
I like it. Well, listen, this is the thing. We had a record-breaking night with 6 quarterbacks, right, in the first 12 picks, but this is not the first time that we've seen a lot of quarterbacks go at the top of the draft. So I'm going to ask this real quick to wrap up this video. Confidence meter, when we talk about the landing spots and the talent of these quarterbacks, that we don't look back on this 3-4 years from now and be like, you know what, only one of those 5 quarterbacks are where they, originally started. So confidence meter that these guys are in really good situations.
Overall, I think I'll give it an 8. I mean, these guys are not perfect players, are not perfect prospects, and situations are obviously so important. But I even just want to say that the one that sticks out to me the most is J.J. McCarthy. I absolutely love the fit. I love the scheme, the surroundings, Kevin O'Connell. That's my confidence meter is the highest in J.J. McCarthy from the Vikings, but overall I'm going to say about an 8 for all of these guys.
Yeah, I'm going to 7.5 to 8 as well. I think, Denver and New England has some work to do.
Yeah.
But I think Chicago, Atlanta, Minnesota, like those are situations that you feel really good about. And I think we can look back at this class and say, you know what, maybe Michael Penix is the next Jordan Love, where he sits for a year and a half and then takes over. And it's like we're not missing the beat.
I agree 100%. I'm at an 8 too. So there we have it, perfect 8s across the board. We're talking about QB landing spots. So y'all check back in with us in 2 to 3 years and we'll recap this video. But we think we have a couple potential Pro Bowlers and maybe we got a couple All-Pro quarterbacks from this draft class.